I mean, we all said that November, December, next 6 months are the best times to buy for the foreseeable future. And I think we're probably seeing all those listings. I think we're probably seeing the tail end of the people that were kind of stretching the limits. We're hoping rates would come down. They haven't. And now they're having to list as well. So we're probably seeing a combination of the spring market, but also people at the very end of their ability to maintain the cost of living that they have. And there's probably a lot of people that are listing for that reason as well. So we're probably seeing the fallout of kind of the higher rates over the last year and a half, and also the spring market.
You're listening to the Ottawa Real Estate Podcast with your hosts, Paul Stevenson, David Warren, and Greg Campbell. Let's see what's going on in the world of real estate today.
Hello, and welcome back to the Ottawa Real Estate Podcast, hosted by myself, Paul Stevenson, Greg Campbell, and David Warren. We come together each week and explore the dynamic landscape of real estate in Ottawa. Whether you're a first-time home buyer, a seasoned investor, or simply curious about the local market trends, this podcast is your go-to resource for valuable insights, expert advice, and the latest news shaping the Ottawa real estate scene. Gentlemen, what's going on? What's the latest? What's happening in Ottawa real estate? Screw our weekends. I want to know what's happening in the market.
No one cares.
I'm done with your life. I'm done with hearing about your
No one cares
weekends.
about our personal life. They just want the news. Hot off the press. I'm just going to go into the market stats for March.
Fire.
The market shows early signs of a buzzing spring market. What a surprise. Who told you about a buzzing spring market? Who told you? TOREP? Maybe all the other agents you talk to. Number of homes sold through the MLS system, Ottawa Real Estate Board totaled 1,165 units in March. That was an increase of 10% for March 2023. That's significant. Home sales were 21.5% below the 5-year average and 15% below the 10-year average for the month of March. On a year-to-date basis, home sales totaled 2,678 units over the first 3 months of the year. That's an increase of 13.1% from the same period in 2023. So I think that information alone goes to show you that things are heating up, as we say. Gentlemen, right? On TOREP? Wouldn't you agree?
Well, you like to pump the market, Greg. So, I mean, I assume this is just some sort of pump
That's
and
what we
dump
do over here, right?
Pump and dump you're promoting.
We control the numbers. We control the people at TOREP, as our listeners say, as some of our listeners say. Pump it up. Pump it up, all right?
Pump it
Always pumping up those numbers. The MLS HPI Home Price Index composite benchmark price was $636,700 in March, a gain of 2.7% from March 2023. Benchmark price for single-family homes was $719,000, up 2.6%. Year over year, benchmark for a townhouse row unit was $489,800, up slightly at 0.9% compared to a year earlier. And apartment condos were $423,000, up from 4.3%. So no matter which way you look at it, the numbers are up compared to last year. New inventory. We saw new listings saw an increase of 13.5% for March 2023. New listings were 2.3% below the 5-year average and 11.1% below the 10-year average for the month of March. So, you know, a little bit of up and down there. Active residential listings number 2,543 units on the market at the end of March, a gain of 18.3% compared to March 2023. Active listings were 58.6% above the 5-year average and 17.7% below the 10-year average for the month of March, excuse me. So active listings haven't been this high in the month of March in more than 5 years.
Wow.
So that's interesting. I think that's the most interesting statistic out of all of this. Does that mean that it's now a buyer's market because there's more listings and there's more still coming? What's your take on that, gentlemen? What are you seeing?
Well, I'm sure a lot of people were taking notes and jotting down numbers, but at a high level, it seems like, as you said, more listings. Days on market seems to be getting shorter from where we talked about in January. That was kind of the numbers I think we wanted to track was number of listings, days on market. Number of listings is growing, days on market is shrinking. So from your experience, what does that tell us?
Well, it tells us that there's a lot of options, but there's a lot of buyers coming out. As we say, as everyone says, coming back from the sidelines. However, I see a lot of people still waiting for this rate drop. There's more listings coming than sales, and I think the listings are still going to continue to come. There's still some properties that are listed high and they're sitting. So it's just a matter of what that looks like in the next 6 weeks. I do have an interesting statistic that I really wanted to share with everybody. This goes back to what miraculously I was saying on TOREP the end of the year last year. Got him fired up this morning. I haven't been this fired up in weeks.
That coffee, I got you on this espresso this morning.
It's you know what? It's my ribs feel like they're finally healing. So this is the stat that I have. November 2023, when I was on the show saying, if you are a buyer and you are capable to buy, please, I implore you to go look at homes, because you will get the best price that you're going to get probably for years, honestly, for years. The average or the median sales price in November 2023 was $585,000. Do you know what it is now? $635,000. Exactly. That's an increase of $50,000. Simple math. So you could have saved. Now you can't save. There's no savings. There's no saving you. Things are going up. I'm pumping the market. I'm scaring you. I'm scaring you to buy. And what happens if you're waiting for these rates and they drop? Guess what happens after that? 50,000 up.
Yeah. Yeah. We all said that November, December, next 6 months are the best times to buy for the foreseeable future. And I think we're probably seeing all those listings. I think we're probably seeing the tail end of the people that were kind of stretching the limits. We're hoping rates would come down. They haven't. And now they're having to list as well. So we're probably seeing a combination of the spring market, but also people at the very end of their ability to maintain the cost of living that they have. And there's probably a lot of people that are listing for that reason as well. So we're probably seeing the fallout of kind of the higher rates over the last year and a half, and also the spring market. It's kind of a perfect storm of listings, which is great if you're out buying. But as you said, Greg, if the rates do come down in June, which is the next announcement, we have an announcement this Wednesday, which I think, Dave, you and I are both in agreement that rates are going to hold. So let's assume the first rate drop is in June or July of this year. That's going to only, as you said, Greg, that's going to likely, just on the optics of it, just the expectation that rates have now dropped, like the headlines, rates are coming down, which really they haven't changed much. And they have come down a bit since last summer. But the headline of rates coming down is going to push prices up, as you said, probably another 25, 50 grand on average.
Headline in itself.
Yeah.
I mean, CMHC, this just had an article that they put out saying that they're expecting over the next 2 years, and be it into 2026, by the end of 2026, rather, a 20% increase in home value. So this is across Canada, and this is the Canadian Mortgage Housing Corporation, Crown Corporation, expecting a 4.9% increase in average home values or prices across Canada to an average of 711,000, and an explosive growth forecast for 2025 of 9.5%, and then moderating in 2026 of 4.6%. Finishing off 2026 with an average, and again, this is across Canada, but 800 and almost 15,000. Obviously, CMHC has been wrong before. We know if you were listening and back at the beginning of the pandemic, they also forecasted like the market absolutely nosediving, but that was before we decided to print money and drop rates to historic lows. But so anything can change. However, for what they're forecasting for this year, and we're already into this year, and we're already started 2024, is are expecting an average increase of 4.9 or 5, across Canada. So, that really does kind of, again, go into and play into what we've been saying of people coming off the sidelines and prices going up. Obviously, the rate decreases that we will see at some point are going to play into that as well.
You know what that is, Dave? That's a great segue for my next.
I'm not a segue, Dave.
My next summary. Dave. So affordability in Canada, based on what we're talking about, based on what Dave said with, the 20% increase by 2026 or the end of 2026, I believe, right? So Canadian affordability, Canadian housing affordability has reached an unprecedented low, as indicated by recent data from RBC. There it is again. Income stagnation in comparison to mortgage payments has exacerbated the situation, leading to an erosion in affordability across all tracked markets. Even historically affordable cities like Ottawa, Montreal, and Halifax are experiencing their worst affordability levels ever. Vancouver, Toronto, Victoria have been particularly hit hard, surpassing 80% of median household income. Mortgage payments have risen substantially faster than home prices have dropped, resulting in a significant strain on household budgets. While forecasted interest rate cuts may offer some relief, RBC anticipates only marginal improvements in affordability in the near term. However, meaningful recovery is expected to take years in many of Canada's large markets, with affordability likely to remain a significant challenge for the foreseeable future. This highlights the pressing need for substantial reforms to address Canada's housing crisis. I wanted to add, there's one thing in that summary that didn't come up. There was a specific part about how in surveys that they did that more married couples are choosing not to have kids because of the lack of affordability of housing. I thought that was very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, probably just the overall cost of living, like to the idea of,
of having a child.
adding an additional mouth to feed in this economy is not exactly.
Well, I mean, we're going through it. I got 2 kids. You've got many children. It's not the easiest thing in the world. I mean, groceries alone is ridiculous. Paul Stevenson, many children. Many.
I finally have friends that have surpassed my child count.
So based on that article, let's segue into Trudeau's new idea of affordable housing. I know we all kind of read that. There was an ad that he put out. I didn't get a chance to watch it yet, but did you guys see that? What do you know about all of this? What do you think?
I mean, the federal budget announcements April 16th, so next Tuesday, and they've certainly been slowly rolling out over the past couple of days, press releases and public speaking engagements, whatever you want to call them, kind of, talking ahead of time of what's coming out. Some of them being, additional funds for, for affordable housing, I think $1.5 billion or something like that. Renters' Bill of Rights, trying to nationalize leases instead of provincial, which is not going to work because every province has different rights, tenant rights, and you're not going to get the premiers on board. And there's articles about Quebec having taken decades to get theirs in line. So to try and get every province is just not going to happen. But certainly having some certain things mandated, I think, would be good. But yeah, they're certainly rolling things out. I did read over the weekend, there's talk of that in this budget announcement will be for first-time home buyers.
Again,
going back to extending the amortization out to 30 years for first-time home buyers from 25. They took that away or made that change in 2012 of reducing the amortization on insured mortgages from 30 years to 25, and it's been that way since. So it'll be interesting to see if that does come about. This is something I know that Mortgage Professionals Canada and other bodies have been lobbying the government for, saying that first-time home buyers need this payment reprieve and having that there. However, I think that's where OSFI and others have been towing that line of knowing that, rates coming down or extended amortizations do help with purchasing, which obviously adds to, pricing or demand. However, I think that would be, more incentives for first-time home buyers, more ways in which they can get into the market is crucial. So that, going back to what we were talking about of families and growing your family, being able to keep that cost of living low and that barrier to entry easier for families or young people is critical.
So the interesting thing to me about all of this Trudeau housing stuff is that he's definitely pushing towards the 3D homes, the printing of the homes as like a big part of this package, right? Mm-hmm. So I want to know what that's going to look like, because in my mind, they're going to be little, smaller, like post-war style homes.
Yeah.
So you won't generally, because we're so accustomed to living in bigger spaces, bigger family. Now we're not used to what it used to be. And then how big are they going to be? And then what's going to be the cost what's the affordability based on price per square foot of a 3D printed home? So that's what I want to know, if that's going to come out in this budget on April 16th, you said?
Yeah, next Tuesday.
I'm anxious to see that, just so whoever hasn't seen it yet, but it's the 3D printed home. This is the style.
There's some cool YouTube videos,
which is great. Which is amazing. I've seen some crazy projects. It's a fantastic idea. I just think it's funny how now our government is leveraging a creative idea that, could have come to fruition without it, but now it's like, oh, wait a minute, we can partner with these guys, team up, and do reduced housing. But where's the balance in that? That's what I want to know. I want to know what that's going to look like.
Yeah, I've heard there's going to be like a housing catalog, basically, of like 6 to 8 different types of units that if you're building those types of units, you can skirt specific types of permits or regulations to basically get the shovel in the ground or the printing press moving, depending on what you're doing. But yeah, I think that I mean, it's hard to argue that program if they're able to do that. I think being able to actually build more homes faster would be great. I think there's actually that bill that they created called Build More Homes Faster, and I think they built 0 homes of that bill. So
that was an Ontario bill. That was a great slogan from Doug Ford. Build homes fast.
And then what's the thing? Like, what's the price tag? Or if it's rented, who owns them? Like, who's partnering with the Canadian government to own them? Do the taxpayers own these homes? Like,
it has to be private businesses, but. The thing is, and I know there was a lot of people kind of commenting about, those affordable housing being paid for from taxpayer dollars. I mean, really at the end of the day, and I think I said it to you guys, is, you look at Ottawa community housing, we're in Ottawa. That's paid, that's subsidized, and that's, paid for by government. I think affordable housing really does need to be more of a government initiative in part partnership with private, but we all know that government on its own at all levels, and it doesn't matter what party's in power, them actually executing on being able to build a sufficient amount of homes is on their own, or government execute on their own on anything is going to be next to impossible. So they're going to need to partner with private initiatives.
And where do they go and who gets them? That's the question. Who gets these homes? Can't wait to see that.
Yeah, and like you said, where are they going to put them? Like, it's, you look at a place like Toronto. They don't
basically over the next week, it's going to be, we're going to have a lot of, over the next week, we're going to have a lot to talk about, being that the Bank of Canada's announcement is Wednesday before Stats Canada can release any inflationary data for the month of March. So they're kind of going in blind a little bit. And to Paul's point, I think that's why it'll be a hold, because that data won't be there. But then next Tuesday being that official launch or reading of the budget, and hopefully some more clarity around some of these initiatives and how they're going to roll out. And then that kind of it's always that interesting part too, of the look back to last year's budget of what was announced and what actually came into play, or what actually was, actually done, because there's a number of programs that still haven't launched and so, yeah, I mean, I think over the next few weeks, as things come more clear, we're going to have some clear. Of those.
Nothing launches in Canada, so we'll see if this actually goes. And I want to know, for me, the biggest thing that I want to see if there's a difference of who gets these first and where, if Indigenous are a priority, if Canadian citizens are the first priority, or if immigrants are the first priority. That's what I really want to know. I want to know if it's like a shared group of everyone that's getting the benefit from this, or if there's different dynamics to each individual or family, depending on where you're from and where you sit in Canada.
Are you thinking of buying or selling a residential property? Relationships are at the heart of every real estate transaction. At Geltin Poirier Avocat Lawyers, we love to bring residential buyers, sellers, agents, lenders, mortgage brokers, and the law together to close the deal for you. For an effortless client experience that opens doors, call us at 613-744-4488 or visit our website at geltinpoirierlaw.ca. Let's get to the heart of your deal.
So with these economic budgets, let's say $6 billion that they're coming up with, is this being created or is this being reallocated from elsewhere in the budget? And the reason I say this is because if you're running a business, if I'm running a business, I want to get, let's say it's something amazing. I want to get benefits for my employees, right? I want to spend money. I want to get them healthcare. I want to make sure they're fully covered, them and their families. If that's going to cost me an extra $1,000 a month, I can't just create that $1,000 and be like, okay, well, this is a new budget I have allocated. I have to take that from somewhere else in my business and use it to pay for the benefits, right? So is our government just creating further money and increasing the cost of living, or is this actually being reallocated from elsewhere?
I mean, historically, every party creates a deficit on their budget. Like every party, every government rarely has a balanced budget or a surplus budget. I mean, the provincial government right now, I think their budget was like a deficit of like 40 billion or something like that, or more. I can't recall. But basically every level of government except for municipal, because they can't run deficits on the municipal level, they can't. But federal, I mean, that's why our national debt continues to rise.
Because a lot of these programs are great. Like, you know, they're trying to, or they want to impose, like, you know, more food for kids that are hungry in schools. Great program. The, you know, dental plans for seniors, great programs. But like, where is the money coming from these programs? Like, I'm all for the programs, but I'm not all for tripling our cost of living either. You know, like we have to actually figure out where the money is going and actually
it's always borrowed
properly.
Money.
You know,
it's always borrowed money, and there's obviously a cost to that borrowing, and that's why we've seen the interest on our national debt increase dramatically over the last few years. And the same with being in the States, right? Like I talked about last episode, is that they're adding $1 trillion in deficit in debt to the government, you know, balance sheet every 90 days in the US. $1 trillion. And so we're obviously not anywhere near that level. We don't even have we don't even spend $1 trillion a year or even close, but it is, you know, that
when
adds
does the wind
to
come?
taxes, that adds to, you know, it adds to, you know, it's very rare that it's being pulled, that a program is being canceled or reduced or cost measurements brought in to reduce the cost of operating a certain program to then reallocate. That's not what a lot of
feels like a house
do.
of cards. You know, it feels like a house of cards. That's all I'm gonna say.
We are living in a house of cards.
Yeah. So the other thing I wanted to talk about that I think you mentioned, Dave, in one of your comments was the Renters' Bill of Rights. So this was very interesting. I was reading about this in depth over the weekend. So the federal government's proposed measures. I'm going to read this from an article to make sure I'm reading it correctly, but we can discuss it afterwards. The federal budget's proposed measure to protect renters from low vacancy rates, high prices, and other significant challenges might be enough, according to some housing experts. So it says earlier this week, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said the upcoming federal budget would introduce protections specifically geared towards younger renters. The Renters' Bill of Rights would include a national standard lease agreement, as you mentioned, and require landlords to disclose a unit's pricing history to allow tenants to negotiate their rent. The government, this is the best part, the government would also create a $15 million fund for provincial legal aid organizations to help tenants fight landlord abuse and rent evictions when a landlord evicts a tenant by saying they need to do significant renovations. The Liberals are also proposing to change federal rules so that making rental payments on time will count towards someone's credit scores.
That's a great idea. I think that's like the best idea out of all of it.
So, it could be done now. Like a landlord, and there are some property management companies that do
that?
register it that will add it on your credit bureau, but it goes both ways as well. So those young renters that maybe don't think or realize that their Rogers Bell FIDO bill impact their credit and registered, and they don't then think that maybe their rental payment is going to impact their credit. Like they could be very good and diligent in making it on time, but it's also going to impact them when they make it a day late or 2 days late. That's going to be a hit on their credit. And a lot of people using e-transfer these days, things like that. It's not automated payments. Like that's going to then impact their credit score on a negative manner. I do agree with you, Greg. I think it is good. It's just, I think people need to be aware and educated on it.
Also, the fund, like allocating money from the budget to basically sue another class of citizens seems insane. No?
I mean, I would like to know what the number of rent eviction are. Like that's really like a very small subset. And it's a really lengthy process to even give notice of that. And really, even after the renovation, they have to hold that unit available for that tenant at the same price technically as what they had before. Yeah. So, you know, there is stuff in place for them to go. The problem with any of this, whether it be like landlord, you know, the number of people I talk to that have rental units that they have like druggy tenants that are like literally with like they'll leave their needles everywhere. You know, there's damage and creating nuisance for other neighbors. Some even just roaming around naked in the building on a regular basis. I was talking to a friend yesterday who was dealing with that, which is kind of hilarious. They can't get these tenants
Dave,
out.
I told you not to tell anyone about my habits.
They can't get the tenants out. They can go and not pay for a ridiculous amount of time, and an appointment can't be made at the landlord and tenant board on the other side to get these tenants out. And so there needs to be, really, at the end of the day, any of these funds should really go to adding more mediators and more judges to the landlord and tenant board to speed up the process. The fact that it takes 6 and 9 months and a year to have an appointment for a tenant, for a landlord, both sides of the spectrum, because when there's issues and a tenant stops paying and doesn't pay for 9 months, it snowballs. Like, that landlord now is defaulting on their mortgage or having issues, or is maybe now not as inclined to get a rental, which then helps the rental supply market or get into building units. So they really need to address that, to have more people there, to put more money into getting like an aid worker, legal aid, to fight the landlord. Well, if you can't even get a friggin' appointment at the landlord and tenant board, what good is that going to be anyways?
Yeah, I mean, it's challenging, and everything going on in the U.S. too with the squatters' rights and whatnot. Like, I've been watching a little bit about that. It's just bananas, where people will just scour the internet in a city, try to find a nice place online that has the address, and then they find the address, they just get in there, and then once they're in, like, getting them out of there is like a nightmare. Like, you can't, like, the rights for the squatters is like more than the owner of the property.
Yeah.
And do you think the transparency of the rent history, like the rental price history, do you think that's beneficial, or do you think that's kind of insignificant?
I think it becomes, I don't think it's like going to do anything.
No,
I mean, really,
it's not.
at the end of the day,
knowledge.
it's supply and demand. It's like, cool, I charged $2,000 3 years ago, and now I'm charging $2,250. Well, my property taxes also jumped up. If you're in Toronto, they're jumping up double digits this year. So yeah, they're gonna have to raise rents. So
also, someone says, I want to pay $2,000, be like, okay, well, great. Well, I got another tenant who's paying $2,250.
Exactly.
So.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
It's what one person gets upset, and there's another 10 standing behind them saying, like, well, I'll pay. Will you take me?
Yeah. Like, I mean, transparency, I think, in anything is a good thing, but I don't think it's going to like change anything, so to speak, because they could have updated the unit as well. Like, is that, what's planned into that? Somebody's bringing up like, oh, you raised rents. Well, yeah, my mortgage went up 70%.
Yeah.
Oh, like,
imagine auctions for rentals, like a platform like Unreserved. All like, yeah, the property's worth like $3,000. It's like bidding starts at $1,000 a month. See where that goes.
Well, and then the business model will change after 6 months, and that won't be there anymore. Like Unreserved's model. Yeah. But no, I think for renters as a whole, like as a high level summary, I do want to see more of what comes out in that Bill of Rights. I think they're not going to nationalize a lease. That's not going to happen. I think they need to get more money, like I said, into the landlord and tenant boards in all provinces, invest there. I think more rights for tenants as well as for landlords. It needs to be an even playing field, and that parlays into affordable housing as well. But yeah, we'll kind of see how things come to fruition over the next couple of weeks.
I'm just so anxious to see how affordable this plan is. Can't wait to see if it actually makes some kind of sense. And then starts quickly. More homes faster, right? Or if we're standing here again in 12 months going, thank you for everything that you've done for us, Canada.
The term affordable is hilarious when they're sliding in and we're going to create further deficit to create affordable things. Yeah. Hey, it's like, all right, perfect. Sounds great.
And then, that'll come down to the consumer, right? The new, there's a tax. There's a tax for you. Everyone pays into the affordable housing,
the wealthy tax. There is talk of a wealth tax. We'll see if that comes to fruition.
And wealth tax is $35,000 a year income plus.
Yeah, if you make more than $40,000 a year as a family, you have to pay $35,000 in tax. Oh, mood boost, gentlemen.
We'll take care of you. We'll take care of you on a national level.
Yes,
let's do it.
Okay, I got 3 today. Number 1, I found a wooden shoe in my toilet today. It was clogged. Number 2, I was at a party this weekend, and there was a pony, but the pony couldn't sing because he was a little hoarse.
It's like a mule.
Almost like a mule. And number 3, I know a surgeon who puts organs back in upside down. I told him that's not funny, but he said it was an inside joke. An inside joke.
Those are pretty good. Pretty good.
Not bad. Not bad.
You redeemed yourself from last week.
Thank you as well to our amazing sponsor currently, a new one to be announced shortly. And thank you to all our listeners for listening. And thank you to you guys for being here.
I'm here
every
for
week. We record every Monday. We release every Tuesday, 10 a.m. And be sure to subscribe, like, comment, and leave a review if you don't mind. On Reddit, preferred, if that's possible. Lots of good Reddit reviews recently.
You know another thing that we don't do is we don't promote ourselves enough on this show, I don't think. You know, you guys are mortgage professionals. Seriously, I almost used the term weathered. That doesn't make any sense. You're
definitely weathered.
Are old as shit.
I'm definitely weathered.
You're seasoned mortgage professionals. I'm a seasoned realtor.
Grizzled vets.
We help.
Hot sauce.
My team
That's my
helps
seasoning.
buyers, sellers, and tenants. We've done more rental. We have a crazy rental division basically now. If you're looking for a rental, holler. I'll send you the intake form, the buyer information form.
And let's not forget about the pet clause.
The pet clause. Yeah. You know, I'm here to help. We have people that will help you.
Pet clause Pappy.
I may help personally. Who knows? We'll just see what the situation is at the time. Call me tonight. And call these guys if you need. Have conversations with us. We want to talk to more. I want to talk to more people.
Only call you at night?
Only call me at night. I will never pick up. Someone will. Someone will.
Great show.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone for tuning in. We will be back next week. We love you. Have an awesome week.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe because we'd really like that.